Hey everyone, welcome back here to my channel where I play Planet Zoo. My name is Nisse and today I'm building this for the Red River Hog, the Bongo and the Nile Lechwe. And if you want to learn more about this beautiful Red River Hog or simply just see how I built this giant habitat, then please keep watching. Okay guys, I'm not sure if I'm the only one, but every time I get a new game, I have this habit of sitting up to the middle of the night and gaming it every single time I get a new game, DLC or anything in that realm of the world. And I know it's probably mostly my own goddamn fault, but yeah. The thing is, though, that I also took a little longer than expected with this habitat because I already built the booster habitat today. And as soon as I uploaded that, I started building this one. But it was supposed just to be a nice, small habitat for the Asian water monitor. Yeah, you can see how tired I am at this point. But the thing is though, as you can see, it's quite a big habitat and you shouldn't have too many Asian water monitors in the same habitat. So therefore I kind of ruined that for myself, to be honest. It's my own goddamn fault. But yeah, so I wanted to think about what would I do then with this habitat because I didn't really like the shape of it and what it could be used for. So I thought that combining the Asian water monitor with the Red River Hog may be a good idea. Then I thought again, the Asian water monitor has venom and can poison any animal that lives with it. So that was a really bad idea. But I worked a little more with the idea of the Red River Hog and figured out that it actually have interspecies enrichment with a lot of animals, both Asian and African animals actually. But I chose to go with the Africans ones, which of course is the Bongo and the Nile Lechwe. However, in this video, I will focus on the Red River Hog, both because it's the new one and also because I have talked before about the other ones. So if I have some time left, again, this is a longer video, then I will touch on the Bongo and the Nile Lechwe. But for most part, it will be about the Red River Hog. And I will just clarify, I am not making the perfect habitat today for any of the animals in here. It will be mostly tropical, but having some aquatic and some grassland plants. But it will also have more plants that at least the Red River Hog like. I think also more than the Nile Lechwe likes, but I'm not sure about that part. So yeah, it will not be the perfect habitat, and it will also stress the animals out a little bit because the guests can see a lot of it. They have plenty of space to hide, but they do prefer to stay within the same corner where the guests can get relatively close from multiple angles. So I do believe it's the animal's fault and not mine, but that's just, yeah. I think we all think it's never our fault. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about the Red River Hog. It is from the order Tzula. And we have talked about this a lot before. It is the order for the even-toed animals, also hoofed animals. For instance, even-toed animals are animals that carry their weight and balance on two toes, which is a even number and therefore even-toed animals. This is a little confusing because for some animals it's really clear. It is, for instance, everything with hoof because they have two toes, even-toed. Very, very easy. We can also make it a little more iffy, which is, for instance, five-toed animals that still belong in here. It can be because they either don't use 3 of the toes. For instance, as humans, we use 4 toes. Not our, what's it called? The smallest toe, we actually don't use it for our weight or balance. Some animals have fully 5 toes, but only use 2 of them for this. And therefore they are also in this family. What is even more confusing is that we also have a lot of whales in this, not family, in this order. And that's because they have 2 fins, but they have 2 toes on each fin or bones that kind of resemble toes. That is the ones that do the biggest part of the fin work. Yeah, very confusing. But if you follow my channel, you are well aware of the fact that I have talked about this order a lot of time before, both for animals like cows, but it can also be animals like sheep, goats, llama, but also the hippo, for instance, and the dolphins. But zooming in a little more, we are looking at the Suidae family. The Suidae is a family with a lot of individuals, some extinct, but we also have some alive. And we are not really sure, it depends on how you look at it, if there's 18 or 19 living species here. Because again, it depends on whether you are looking at the domesticated pig as a subspecies on their own or if it's just a breed. However, if you count with them, that will be 19 species. And it is pretty much every single animal that carries the name either pig, hog, or boar. So therefore, of course, the red river hog is, of course, in this family. And when we start looking at the genome, I am actually a little confused because we have the Putamosaurus, I think, genus here, which makes this specific species in Latin Putamosaurus porcus, which that part isn't that weird. What is weird is there's 2 animals out there with this genome or genus, and that is the red river hog and the bush pig. The funny thing is, when you look at the red river hog, another name for the red river hog is the bush pig. So I took a look at both of these, but they do not carry the same name in Latin. Also, bush pig is spelled with one word, bushpig, but the other name for the red river hog is bushpig in 2 words. The Latin name over here still carries the same genus, so it has the same first name, Putamosaurus, but it, instead of carrying the last name of porcus, the bushpig carries the last name of lavatus. So they have 2 different species name, and looking at where they live, they are both from Africa, but the bush pig is the southeast area and the red river hog is in the western area. However, looking at them, there are also a few differences in looks. The bush pig has longer and tougher fur and looks much more rough, and in a way just looks like a very old and worn out red river hog, where the red river hog is much more pigmented and in general just you look like a younger version of the bush pig. There is a few different feature differences, but most of it, the shape, the size, and even the white stripe down their back is the same, though on the bush pig it is split up with darker fur that is shorter, and then the white hairs is in between the black hairs but longer, if that makes sense. So you would be able to tell the difference if you know these are 2 different animals, but if you saw them side by side and wasn't aware, I think most people just would think that they just didn't have the same age. Anyway, just to specify, I already said it was in Africa, but the red river hog lives in Benin, Cameroon, Central African Republic, Congo, DR Congo, Côte d'Ivoire, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, Ghana, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Mali, Nigeria, Senegal, Sierra Leone, South Sudan, Togo, and Uganda. The important part here is South Sudan, and that's basically because that's the habitat I'm going for today. Specifically because the Bongo do live in both Benin, Cameroon, Central African Republic, Congo, DR Congo, Côte d'Ivoire, Gabon, Ghana, Guinea, Kenya, Liberia, Niger, Sierra Leone, South Sudan, and Togo. So they have a few countries that overlap and some that doesn't. But if we go to the Nile Lechwe, which we also have here, they do only live in Ethiopia, which the others do not, and South Sudan. So for this habitat to make sense, it needs to be based in South Sudan. But again, the Red River Hog have a lot of interspecies enrichment in Planet Zoo, so there's plenty of animals to choose between, so you can make the exact habitat you want to build. When we look at the climate zone for these three animals, they do agree a lot since they are all only in the tropical climate zones, but that's also the only way they agree. Both the Bongo and the Red River Hog live in the anthropogenic biome, but the Nile Lechwe do not. The Bongo do not live anywhere else. So looking at the rest of the biomes we can look at, for the Red River Hog, we have the forest, rainforest, and grassland. And grassland, the Nile Lechwe do also have, but then they have marsh, wetlands, and swamps. So it is very specific to try to merge these animals together, which I really tried doing here. But again, Planet Zoo do not specify this much, so it's a little easier to do game-wise. The Red River Hog is nocturnal, and even when they are awake, they spend most of their time digging around for food. They will use their giant muzzle along with their tusk and forefeet to dig through the ground, sand, or wherever they are in search for food. And doing this, they will mainly find roots and tubers, which is their main food source. But they are also omnivores, which means, first of all, that's what most pigs are, but also as humans, you eat pretty much anything. So they will also eat things like fruit and grasses, herbs, eggs. Dead animals, as far as I know, they do not hunt them, they just eat what they find. And plant remains, insects, and lizard again. They're not picky as long as they don't need to work too hard for it. And if you don't want to work for your food, you need to be a little clever. And the Red River Hog is really clever. They will follow other animals such as the chimpanzees around, because when the chimpanzees run around in the trees, they eat and they drop things, and they are too lazy to go back and get what they dropped. So the Red River Hog will both go around and clean up after the chimpanzees, but get a nice free dinner from the top of the trees that they would never be able to reach for themselves. In general, Red River Hogs have these harems they live in. That's also what we see in the game. 6 to 10 adult individuals is the main, and then you would have one male and then adult females for the rest, and then of course the offspring. However, in nature there have been observed colonies up to 30 individuals. It's not the norm, but if there is food enough for anyone, then there's really no reason to fight over it. And again, it is kind of a lazy animal, so why fight if you don't have to? When that is said, the males can be a little more aggressive since they are territorial, and therefore they will defend their females, their offspring, and themselves, and especially their food. both against other males, but also against other species that may harm them. But again, they are still pigs, and their favorite activity when it comes to not eating will be to just take a spa day in a nice mud bath or a little pond or something like that and just cool down. It's something I think every single pig, hog, anything in between that really love to do, and I do understand it. Most pigs use the mud as sunscreen since they don't have fur to protect for the sun, but the red river hog has fur and live in more shadowy forest most of the time, but that doesn't mean that they don't like this activity very much. They are also extremely verbal, and that can mean a lot of things, and they actually have developed a language, not with a lot of words, but you can classify different sound for different things. They of course have the alarming squeaks that you can hear a lot of, again, pigs and hogs. Squeak, you're never confused about what that means, but they also have a wide variety of different grunts that both can be a sign of a little bit of distress. I'm uncomfortable here, but it can also be just passive contact to just make sure that even though I have my head in the ground, I'm still aware you're there and you can still hear I'm here even though you do the same. So it's really, really interesting that they are really much aware of where each other are, even though they don't need to look at each other at all. A really weird fact, and especially for me, if you don't know, I have a background within farming here in Denmark, and I have studied a lot about pigs. They are not monogamous at all, not in nature and not in captivity. However, the red river hog actually are, and apparently he will only mate with one of his females. These two will be the dominant male and female. He will be the dominant and she will have a place in the group at the same rank as the other females. She's just the only one that gets pregnant, as far as I understand. They can breed from September to April, though the peak will be mainly around November to February. The female will then be pregnant for around 120 days. And if anyone wants to know, the rule of thumb in farming is that the mama pig will be pregnant for 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days, which round up to roughly the same. Not exactly, but we are roughly there. She will give birth to between 3 and 4 piglets, and they will be no bigger than 650 to 900 grams, which is 23 to 32 ounces. They are quite small compared to their mom, which normally is around the size of... the size is normally for 45 to 115, but the females are normally a little bit smaller than the males. The piglings are pretty much ready to go since they are really, really vulnerable if they wasn't ready to run from the start. They have this dark brown color with these yellowish stripes and spots, and they are so cute, and they did make them in the game. I really recommend that if you build for these, take a look at the babies. They are so cute. The piglets will be weaned after 4 months, and at the age of 6 months they will have developed the beautiful red color. However, the dark markings in the face will not appear before they are completely adult or adult adjacent, which would be around 2 years old. However, sometimes they do not fully mature before they turn 3. The red river hogs have one specific enemy, and that is because every time we look at something that looks like a pig, we are thinking dinner, and that's just how it is. And these are one of the species living in wild that are not the one, but one of those that are hunted the most for commercial gain, which is kind of impressive when it comes to it. They should taste really good. I have seen written some places, though I have never tasted it myself. They can also be a hazard, the river hogs, and that's of course because of this way they dig for food. They do basically ruin the ground underneath, which especially farmers are not a fan of, and therefore they can also lose their life because of they pissed off the wrong farmer. And even if they are lucky enough to survive the hunters, they also are in the situations most animals are at this point, that they are losing their home because we are chopping down the forest. We are ruining these places. We need to build a highway, a city, whatever. And at this point, I'm getting a little tired of saying it, but it is sadly still the truth. And unless we choose to change something, it's gonna continue to be the truth. The IUCN do not confirm a specific number of these red river hogs in the wild, but they are still listed as least concern. I assume this means that there's still a lot of them, but we just don't keep account because a lot is getting born and a lot are dying. Again, because of all these factors. But since they still are listed as least concern, I do have faith in the IUCN Red List. With these kind of things, the thing where they group all of the lions together, I'm not a fan of that. But with this, it does seem like the number are still going strong, and it doesn't seem like any local government are afraid of losing these beautiful animals. A lot of local government do not care about losing specific animals. But in this case, because they are hunted for commercial game, I assume it would become an issue for the government because they do not want to lose money that way. That's pretty much all I had about the red river hog. I really hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, let's get into the cinematics. And of course, I will come back afterwards. Okay, guys, that's all I got for you today, and I really hope you enjoyed it. I will be putting up more of these speed build this week, but next week I hope that the modders are getting out there so we can go back to the regular schedule. Anyway, guys, as always, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, and turn on the bell notification so you know the next time I upload a video. I really hope to see you again, either in the comments below or in the next video. Bye, guys.